Project Moon is certainly one of the developers of all time. Known for acclaimed but brutally hard games like Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina, their unique and niche games took on a rabid, cult-like fanbase. Trust me, I've seen it myself with the amount of Limbus role players in my chat. They decided to take their rich, deep, and lore-heavy world and adapt it to a gacha game. I hate gacha games. I think they're some of the most predatory and evil games around. But that's why I decided to go on a journey to explore a bunch of different gacha games and see if they're really as bad as I think. So, without further ado, let's review Limbus Company and see if it can win over a gacha hater like me. I won't break down my entire experience like I have in other videos of mine because of one key thing you'll see quickly through just a few minutes of playing. This is a game, yes, but honestly, it's a visual novel first. I've never been too into visual novels, so this kind of caught me off guard. I'd say in general, your time is split 50-50 between gameplay and reading story. And I'd honestly say it leans more into story. Depending on how this is handled, I would normally say that this detracts from it for me, but I think this game handles it well and incentivizes you to read and interact with the story. Funnily enough, even more than the gameplay itself, as the game has a mechanic to literally just play itself, but that's a point for later. The main reason I was okay with that amount of focus and time on the story is because, at least from what I've experienced so far up to Kanto 4, the story is really well written and mature. The premise is that you, Dante, are the manager for the Limbus Company, and 12 of your employees. Every time they die, you bring them back, extremely painfully for you. The story is divided into chapters or cantos that each explore a different character's backstory through going for a mystical item known as the Golden Bows. Canto 1 is focused on Gregor and his war trauma. Canto 2 is focused on Radion and her desire to be her own quote-unquote Robin Hood. And Canto 3, my favorite, focuses on Sinclair and his struggles in being surrounded by transhumanists. While the story definitely doesn't lack light moments to laugh at, it isn't afraid to shy away from dark or deep topics, which I really like. A lot of gachas I've seen tend to be really childish and generic in their story, but this game is the complete opposite. The ability to focus in on personal stories is because the game is designed around a core group of 12 characters. The gacha is pulling alternate versions of those characters you can use in battle, but they're still the same 12 characters you use. I've never really seen this in a gacha, and I really like it. It allows the game's story to be written with a tightly knit, lovable crew instead of having to shoehorn in reasons for your random 5-star demon girl being there. What helps drive this mature theming home, even more so, is a great art style along with it. For a game that features our characters dying over and over again, pretty brutally, it's important that you get an artist that can draw both gore and emotion well. Both the artists, the older and newer ones, deliver their own unique style to the game that gives every scene a lot more pop and flair. I love the art in this game a lot. I really wish I could say more outside of that, other than it just being really nice. I also don't know where to put this, but the ending songs and art of each canto, sung by the respective VAs, is really cute. Also, Dante's design kinda goes hard. Now enough glazing the aesthetics and stuff around the game. How is the game itself? Before that though, here's my government mandated prompt for you to like and subscribe. Even though it's forced, it still helps a lot. Help me. Well, I'd describe the gameplay as simple on the surface, but immensely deep once you get into it. There's two types of battles you will experience in this game: simple/normal and focused. Most of the filler battles you encounter will be simple battles where you simply start at one end and make a chain, choosing 2 skill options for each of the 5 characters you bring into battle, and clash. The results of a clash are determined by flipping coins and using the various skills and morale of the characters to determine the odds of the clash winning or losing. These are typically the battles you just kind of turn your brain off for. It tells you the odds pretty up front and usually don't have to use any egos for your characters, which is usually what you would consider a special or a super move for your character. Oftentimes, you don't need to block or counter either. Most players just seem to hit the auto select button for this type of fight, and I can't really blame them for how simple it really is. However, a lot of these more in-depth skills and mechanics are used in focus battles, where you need to lock in. Instead of making a chain of skills and letting the battle fight itself, you instead have to choose what center attacks which enemy. There's also different speed values to how fast they attack, so you have to take that into account too. The auto battle button usually doesn't work too well here, so you have to really think about a lot of your decisions tactically to win. When you're just going against regular enemies, this can still be pretty simple, but boss fights in this battle often require lots of management and thinking each turn. I'd best describe the gameplay as a turn-based tactics auto-battler. There's a lot of nuances that get even more in depth once you get to the really high difficulty situations, but even hours in, I'm still not really at the point where I've had to really get in the weeds of those. As far as the packaging of the gameplay, there's a few things you interact with. The first is the cantos I mentioned prior. This is the main content of the game that consists of a bunch of battles and visual novel story sequences. They usually culminate with each chapter ending with a large dungeon, where you choose the order of your battles as you take your entire 12-person team through the gauntlet with not much healing in between. In these dungeons, there's often non-battle spaces where you get to make choices and do attribute checks with your sinners to receive items and boosts. The other major content is mirror dungeons, which is basically the same concept as the final Kanto dungeons, but a bit more fleshed out. You can bring your team or a much more powerful pre-built one into this. There's also a lot more of a focus on making a good build for your team and playing to your strengths and team build. This was just okay to me. I think I would appreciate it more once I understand the pretty deep battle system, but I do think the story parts of this game really add a lot more flair to the game than just having the combat does. There's other stuff too, but it didn't really seem worth doing, so I won't really comment. Overall, the cantos are the best part of the game, and everything else is just alright. Now we get to the big make or break part of the video. How is the gacha and the monetization in general? Honestly, it isn't that bad, at least comparatively to other gacha games. The rates seem pretty alright for the most part. I probably did about 150 to 200 rolls in total and got around 10 pretty good pulls. I'd honestly say the rates are even better than that, considering that the Arknights collab had pretty bad rates, and I got little to nothing out of almost 100 rolls of that. Those were all done with free currency, which you get plenty of. I feel like I'm getting a few pulls worth every time I open the game, and with consistent events, you basically get a free 20 with the tickets they give you. It also has a pity system and shards you get from duplicates that you can craft specific characters with, but this takes quite a lot of pulls or shards, so I didn't really interact with it much. You also have to level up your characters, which can be tedious, but I was given way more tickets to level them up than I've ever needed, and I still haven't run out yet. Since it is a gacha, there is also an energy system, which is pretty lame, but it's also pretty ignorable for quite a few hours in the game. I'd say it only really became an issue after like hour 20. You also get plenty of refills of that from the same events that I mentioned earlier. There's also a battle pass, but like, you can just ignore it outside of claiming free stuff. It seems like there's a lot, and I inherently hate gacha as a concept, but if you're gonna dip your toes into evil, I'd say this is pretty much just getting your feet wet. I'm gonna put this at the end since it isn't really tied to the game itself, but the community is really nice. I've been streaming this game every Saturday on the channel, and basically everyone who's a Limbus player that's shown up has been really helpful, kind, and pleasant to interact with. I know some communities can be pretty hostile to newcomers, but the Limbus one welcomed me with open arms and still is really supportive, so I appreciate that. So, as an overall rating, how is Limbus Company as a gacha hater? This didn't make me suddenly love gacha games, but if you're gonna make one, this is probably the gold standard. It is simple to get into, yet deep under the surface gameplay, a mostly fair and non-predatory gacha, and most of all, it feels like a game first and a gacha second. I'm invested and I'm still playing a bit because I want to see where the characters go and learn more about the gameplay, not because I want to keep gambling. Props to Project Moon for this. I might check out some of their other non-gacha stuff because of it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on mobile, hit the hype thing. For some reason it really boosts videos, so it does help a lot. How do you feel about Limbus Company? Do you like it as much as me, or are you more critical? A special thanks to Master Necro, Nico, Max, Asinotis, and A19 for supporting me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Links below that and my Discord if you want to be extra special and help me out even more for just $1 a month. My name is Cass for real. And I'll just leave this Honglu quote here, I guess.